from the commission wants to talk about anything not on the agenda? All right. Agenda item 5. To accommodate public comment, we may temporarily change the comments to 2 minutes if necessary. I think that sometimes we do that and there might be a little bit more you need to say, especially as an applicant or as somebody who's concerned about what's on the agenda. Also, those who wish to speak, including commissioners and staff, need to be recognized by the chair, and the members of the public shall comply with the adopted rules of decorum, Resolution 4545, and a copy of which can be requested through the city clerk's office if you want to know what they are. Again, I mentioned you can fill out the form and give them to the city clerk. For those that join by teleconference, you already have the number, I'm sure. If you're on here, it says to give you the number, and you will be asked for your name prior to speaking if you're doing it by telephone. A reminder, if you're joining by telephone, please mute your phone to prevent noise and interference until you are given the time to provide public comment. Also, when speaking, please make sure to mute your live stream. Please state your name and the item that you are commenting on before speaking. Are there any members that on the line, I forgot to ask, that want to comment on something that's not on the agenda? Okay, great. All right, item number 6A, site development review 21-001 and model home marketing complex for the Oak Ridge at Mcswing Farms.
Madam Vice Chair?
Yes.
I need to recuse myself as I live in that community. So if you'll come get me after.
We will. Let the record show that Commissioner Lemke has left the room. Still have 3 present because we still have Mr. John Worth on, Chairman John Worth is on the phone, okay?
Waiting for the clicker. And guess we can do this manually as well. We're discussing site development review 21-001 and model home complex 21-001. This is Oak Ridge by D.R. Horton at Mcswing. The applicant is D.R. Horton. The owner is D.R. Horton. The location is Mcswing Farms on South Village Loop at Montage Street. And the description is 58 single-family home residential lots within track 33824. The Hemet Municipal Code provides that the Planning Commission has the authority to review, impose conditions of approval that pertain to the development of the property and approve or deny any site development review. Applicant is also requesting approval of a model home complex 21-001 on lots 35 and 36 and a parking lot on lot 34. The model home complex may be approved by the Community Development Director or may be deferred to the Planning Commission. The general plan designation for this area is low medium density residential, which is 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. The zoning, this area is in the Mcswing Farms specific plan. Here is an aerial view of Mcswing Farms which encompasses all this area here down to here. And the specific area we're going to be looking at tonight are these 58 lots here. And this is a specific plan map showing the different phases or plan areas. And this is plan area 19 that we're going to be discussing tonight. Here we have a site plan and the plotting. This shows where the models will be on lots 35 and 36, the parking lot here. This shows the signage that's proposed for the model home complex. And also the construction traffic will be using Montage here. And there is access from this street here, Nightshade, that becomes Olivet to Palafox, but this access will only be used in case of an emergency. The regular construction traffic will be using Montage Street. This is a front yard typical showing turf and ground cover and different shrubs in the front yards, also showing landscaping in the right-of-way and what the corner lots, the landscaping that they will be provided with. The fencing will be vinyl on the sides, rear, and the returns will be block. The color of the vinyl fence will be in tan, and this matches the adjacent to the north and to the south developments. The model home complex is shown here. Lot 35, 36 in the parking lot and 34. And these are the floor plans that are being offered. Plan 1 is a single family, is a one-story, 1,898 square feet. Plan 2 is 2,537, and Plan 3 is 2,435. And here are the descriptions of what each floor plan, the bedrooms and the amenities. Plan 1 is there will be 29% of this single story, and Plan 2, 36%, and Plan 3, 34%. Plan 1 will be offered in the Spanish bungalow and traditional floor elevations, and these are the 1,898 square foot plans. Plan 2, 2,537 square feet, also in Spanish, traditional and bungalow. And Plan 3 in Spanish, traditional and bungalow, 2,435 square feet. Here are the color palettes that are being offered. The Spanish is offered in these 3 color combinations, traditional in these 3, bungalow in these 3. Project complies with all the required setbacks, building height, wall and landscaping, and development standards of planning area 19 for single family residential within the Mcswing specific plan. The project is also in compliance with the single family residential guidelines and also consistent with the general plan low medium density residential that is 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. This project or the entire Mcswing farms underwent an environmental impact report, and it was adopted by the council by resolution 3779 in November of 2003. And a notice of determination was filed in accordance to CEQA guidelines in November 12 of 2003. There has been no legal challenge brought against the project or the environmental determination. Project will not result in an increase in density or intensity or changes that were not previously reviewed by the EIR. Therefore, the project is in compliance with section 15162 of state CEQA guidelines. This project was noticed on June 4th. The city gave public notice by advertising in the press enterprise and also by sending mailing notices on June 3rd. And that was for a 500-foot radius of owners and tenants. The radius is around the perimeter of the tract. Comments have been received by Mr. and Mrs. Terry, who are present, and they have requested a single story to be placed on lot 3, which is behind their home. And we also received a comment by the law offices of Stephen Thaler and Associates representing Miss Amanda Galindo. Staff has provided the commission with the letter from Mr. Saylor's office. Here we have just a demonstration of the properties that are being discussed by the comments that we received. Mr. and Mrs. Terry's property is here, and all of it is here. That'll help reference the discussion once we get to that, if discussion goes further. And that concludes my presentation. The applicant is here to answer any questions, and I'll answer the best I can as well. Thank you.
Commissioner.
One question on the elevation. Is it the same elevation between both tracks? From this existing one and the new one, the same elevation in the back, or is there any higher elevation behind it?
Grade. I believe that this new development is higher than the existing developed areas here.
And on the McSweeney's farm master plan, I know it said it was suggested that the area be solely a single home, but there's multiple two-story homes within it.
The specific plan says that the builder has the option of building 1 or 2-story, and it did not limit to one or the other. They have the option.
Chairman Worth, did you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Van Arsdale. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. 2 questions. Number one is this is the last phase, correct, of everything on the west side of the wash? First off, just want to confirm that. And then secondly, there's no models that are of single family or I'm sorry, of single story for this track. Has there been any discussion with the applicant on addressing the concern with or the request of a single story home?
There has been discussion. The applicant is here and will be addressing some of those questions. And yes, I believe that planning area 19 is the last of the open area to the west of the wash. And that would
Great,
be
thank you very
the,
much.
excuse me, that would be the southwest, because it appears that there's also planning areas to the northwest, which are not developed.
Got it. Thank you very much. No further questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Regarding the cars in that area, master plan, but were there cars in this area that they were to be single story?
What Mr. Beamstripper is referring to is a quote from the attorney's office saying that the actual specific plan gives the option of 1-story and 2-story. It's not limiting. I did not look at the CCNRs. I believe the applicant and the city attorney definitely looked at those.
Yeah, I would expect the CCNRs to be in draft form at this point, to be recorded after project approval. That's generally the process that we go through. And then, if you don't mind, Chair. First I wanted to make sure that the commission had received the comment letter from the law offices of Stephen Saylor and Associates. Chair Worth, did you receive a copy of that letter?
I do not have a copy of that letter.
Perhaps then we could have staff email you a copy of that letter, and get it into the record.
Yeah, if you could email me a copy of that right now,
You've
I
received
can
that.
go through it quickly.
Okay, so they're going to email to you. If you don't mind, Chair, I'd like to just summarize it then for the chair, since he's not had the opportunity to see the letter. The letter's on behalf of or is from the offices of Stephen Saylor on behalf of his client, Amanda Galindo. And they have some concerns with the design review that's being proposed. That homeowners have enjoyed the privacy of their lots in the backyards, and they'd like to mitigate the effect this development would have, presumably because they would have 2-story houses in their backyard. They're perhaps concerned about privacy of their backyards. So their first request is to amend the application to consist only of single-story homes. That's why you were getting some questions from the other commissioners regarding whether the specific plan requires that. The letter references a development that was done by KB Homes Track 33824-2, where the builder in that case elected to have only single-story homes. Their second request is, if they are going to build 2-story homes, those only be built on the interior of the development. So the lots which are adjacent to the commenting homeowners would have single-story homes on their back, adjacent to their backyards, and the 2-story would be on the interior of the project. If that's not possible, the third recommendation is the installation of privacy landscaping on the backyards of the bordering homes, trees, bushes, other shrubbery of a minimum height of 20 feet to shield the existing homes from the view of the 2nd-story windows. In addition, the letter complains of inadequate public notice. The letter does acknowledge that the city's postage machine dates the mailing as June 3rd, 2021, but says that it did not arrive in his client's mailbox until June 9th, and that the design review and plans are not available until June 10th, when the agenda was posted on the website. And the attorney says, therefore, that their client did not receive timely notice and was unable to prepare for the hearing under California law. If you don't mind, Chair, I'd like to, just from a legal perspective, address those concerns. As staff has already indicated, the specific plan authorizes the builder, if they choose, to go with single-story only. But it authorizes, I think it's a maximum building height of 35 feet, if I'm correct. So they have the option of doing 2 stories as well. And in fact, if you look at the design standards, sorry, my computer locked while I was being long-winded. And I apologize to everyone in the audience who has to listen to my diatribes here. But if we go to the design guidelines 5-33 of the McSweeney Farm specific plan, when we're looking at the residential guidelines, keep in mind the specific plan is an ordinance passed by the city council that says what the planning in this area needs to be. They say building heights should vary throughout the tract. One of the things that the council is worried about from an aesthetic perspective is creation of these monolithic communities where everything's the same height, there's no variation. And so, that's one of the directives from the councils, that the building height should vary, but throughout the tract. So I would say, addressing that first concern, the letter from the attorney correctly identifies that it's at the option of the builder, whether they want to go single family or not, or single story or not. As for the remainder, I believe, these are things that the applicants can certainly talk to, whether they want to have single story along that border, whether they want to propose installing the privacy screening. And the last thing I would just say is this is a very common occurrence when it comes to development adjacent to an existing residential neighborhood. Especially this one, I believe they said 15 years that it's been present here. You become accustomed to having an empty field in your backyard. A view of San Jacinto unobstructed. You forget that you live in a subdivision. And whenever that adjacent lot, it comes time for development, whether that be other housing, whether that be a commercial development, whatever the zoning allowed for, oftentimes you do have a little bit consternation because they feel like something's being taken away. But the zoning hasn't changed, and that adjacent property owner has the right to develop their property. So those are my legal thoughts on it. Addressing just the notice issue, the Hemet Municipal Code, if I bring it up here, and I'm referencing section 90-48-4, specifically outlines the hearing and notice procedures required for design review. And it's essentially the same as most other planning action items, which is notice published in the newspaper of general circulation at least 10 days beforehand, and notice mailed at least 10 days beforehand to property owners within 500 feet, I think it's 500 feet, of the proposed development. It doesn't mean received. The city can't control when the postal service delivers mail. I'm a bit shocked that it took 6 days to go from downtown Hemet to southern Hemet, but the post office delivers mail when they deliver it. And the city's postage machine identifies the date when it is mailed. So from a legal perspective, I don't see a concern with the notice that the city gave on the public hearing. Those are my thoughts, Madam Chair.
I would like to.
Thank you.
I heard something. Okay. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public here that would like to speak?
I did receive an online comment. I received two. So we'll call up the first person, Julie Rutherford. She did say she wanted to speak.
Hi, thank you. And please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
It's not outlined in red, but is right by Randy's house. So we have the property that is backs up to lot 3 and 4. Okay. And this was really late. We've got it maybe 5 days ago, and trying to find the agenda, I called around to try to figure out whether we could attend the meeting, and then also where was the plan and what was happening. So I literally just found out with Randy's help today what's happening behind our property. So maybe I just wasn't looking in the right place, or I just didn't get the notice fast enough. But in speaking to a few other owners, they didn't, it felt like we were scrambling a little bit, and that agenda is 100 pages. So of course I didn't read all of that. I don't have time to do that with working, and all that too. The one thing though that I want to point out is lot number 3 and lot number 4 are both two-story. And where our house sits, I understand about the view, which has been a beautiful view, right? I'm not so concerned about losing the view as I am concerned about lot number 4 with the 2-bedroom, with the master bedroom windows that looking out will then look into my master bedroom window and it's windows and bathroom. So the way that our house is built and the way that that house on lot number 4 sits, those windows are almost perfectly aligned to each other, which probably isn't a problem during the day, right? Because the lights are off, it's dark, but certainly at night that poses a problem for me. And I'm hoping that the developer would consider, I don't know if the developer is even here today or what's happening, but I was hoping that the developer would consider changing that plan on number 4, or also creating some type of privacy for us. And they don't even have to do it on that side. They could do it on our side, but we need some sort of a privacy against those windows, because that's completely an open exposure to our entire backyard and to our master bedroom and master bathroom. The balance of the bedrooms are in the front, which doesn't pose a problem for us. We don't have a problem with that, but I feel like we're going to lose a lot of privacy there. And the other one, number 3, is in a different position. It's, I'm not going to complain about that at all. It's a different configuration, but number 4 for us is a real problem. Thank you. Also, I have a question. I don't know how you get an answer. So if I pose the question, does somebody come back to me with an answer?
Going to, at the end, we're also going to have the developer be allowed to speak.
Okay.
Try to address questions that have been asked probably towards the end, unless the attorney or the planning director or any of the commissioners have a question of you right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also received a second request for a public comment from Timothy Ward.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The neighborhood is really
Just
a buzz.
state your name and
Timothy
and
Ward.
your address. Yes.
752 Olivet Street. Our neighborhood is a buzz over this project, and there's a lot of support for it. There's also a few concerns. So, as my wife alluded, the shot directly into our bedroom isn't exactly exciting, but we've also spent well over $100,000 on a backyard that the neighbor behind us will be able to watch everything we do. I don't think that's right. My concerns that I really want to bring to the attention of the builder, and it's already started. 2 Sundays ago, they clearly needed to get the road completed. 4:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Now, I can't have anybody work on my house on Sunday because of the homeowners association. At 9:30 at night, from 4:30 to 9:30, we heard beep, beep, beep all day long. It's not right. It's not right. I'm having to spend more money cleaning my pool because they're not watering the dirt down. I'm having to spend more money with my gardeners because the wildlife is being chased into my backyard, into Randy's backyard, and all of our neighbors. What is going to be done to mitigate that? We're spending more in cleaning our cars. We have a fifth wheel. I just spent $500 cleaning it. There's this much dust on it. I didn't do it. It's not something that I should have to pay for. It's something that somebody should consider when they are taking on a project like this. I agree with my wife. That view is magnificent. Not my issue. I'll have a view. You can still see the top. Having somebody have a view into my world belongs to me, not them. So I would respectfully request that special attention is paid to that lot 4. Now versus later, because it can't happen. So with that being said, thank you very much for your time.
I have a question, Mr.
Yeah.
Ward. It was mentioned that your lot's set lower than the lots behind you. Is that correct? And do you know about how much?
So the lots themselves stagger going down the street. So on lot 1 is the lowest, and it works its way up. If I go to the other side of my fence, I'm 6'1". I can look into my backyard from lot 4. So the other thing that I did not mention that, I appreciated the fact that most of the construction traffic is going to go through the street that they've put. I don't remember the name of it, versus Olivet, because that's not quite what I read in the agenda. But keep in mind, there's a lot of kids on that street. As you pointed out, they've had this beautiful view. They've had no traffic coming down that street. Their play habits aren't going to change. So I would hope that they would say extreme circumstances that somebody will be driving through there. They've already done it. The concrete trucks go through there. The big forklifts go through there. I'm sorry, they're not paying attention. They drive faster than I do on my street. So again, something to take into consideration. Thank you.
We have request to speak from Randy Terry.
I need to state my name again. Randy Terry. I live on Nightshade Street, in the red circle there behind lot 3. I had 3 concerns. One of the concerns was kind of addressed by Soledad concerning the construction traffic, all the construction traffic to go down Montage Street or Stargazer Street. It's not up there, it's on your plan. She mentioned that if there's an emergency that they would be using Halifax Street, which is the one next to the 848 Olivet, and then Olivet and Nightshade Street. We would want no construction traffic at all if we could down there. She said in case of emergency, I don't know what constitutes emergency, but currently at the back of lot 7 there, lot 7 of DR Horton, across the street of Halifax, there is a 6-foot high chain link fence that's a freestanding with a tan privacy cover at this time right now. They fenced off the property, and I would think the homeowners up and down Olivet and Nightshade would prefer to see that temporary fence stay up during the construction of these 58 homes, which would block the construction traffic of using Halifax Street. We'd like it to stay up for all 58 homes. That may not be possible because as the homes are sold, homeowners might want to exit that way. I don't know. Just a consideration. Also, the second item being construction on all these homes to adhere to the city ordinance for building construction. I think there is a summertime ordinance of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and no Sunday work and no national holiday work. What Mr. Ward was referring to, all of the noise and the traffic congestion of big machinery going down Olivet and Nightshade. I think it was May 23rd and May 24th. On behalf of D.R. Horton, this was not D.R. Horton people. This was a construction company called Alabassi who contracted to put in the streets and the curbs and the gutters for rain tree development. This had nothing to do with D.R. Horton. D.R. Horton just builds the homes on ready-built lots. So as far as the construction of the homes, I would like to see D.R. Horton adhere to the construction hours for summer. And I know in the wintertime it changes. I don't know exactly what it is, but code enforcement would. On behalf of D.R. Horton, there was an item concerning my lot that's behind number 2 and 3 in the red zone there. I tried very hard for months and months to get a single-story house built on lot 3, and D.R. Horton has denied that, but they are putting a second-story home on there, but they're moving it as far to the east as they could with the setbacks very minimal and giving me somewhat of a little bit better view. And so I'm happy with the change to a 2-story home. I mean, I would like a single-story home, but it's not a pliable option, I don't think. Lots 1 and 2 are already single-story homes. They only have one model of a single-story home. So to put 3 single-story homes together is not really an option with only one model of single-story homes. Also, the other resolution that I have with D.R. Horton is behind my lot, which would be lots 1, 2, and 3. My lot is lower than lots 1, 2, and 3. And that from my lot and the lot to the north there, my next door neighbor, that we have a rear vinyl fence issue. D.R. Horton has addressed it, and they're going to be building a 2-foot retaining wall. So the property of 1, 2, and 3 are higher than mine fence, and my existing vinyl fence right now is 6 foot, but it has 18 inches of dirt on the bottom, and it's not a retaining wall. So they're going to end up removing my vinyl fence, putting in this retaining wall and a new vinyl fence on top. I haven't signed any release or agreements yet. I wanted to see the plans from D.R. Horton that supposedly they've submitted to the city. And I think Jennifer might know about this. And, but I just wanted that on the record, that's something that should be done behind lots 1, 2, and half of lot number 3. My fourth question is like Stephen said, I don't understand. They have 3 lots to build model homes on, and they're building 2 of the lots, 35 and 36 are 2-story lots. lot 37 is going to get a single story house, but they're not offering the model for a single story house. I don't know why they're not offering a single story model. Thank you.
You probably noticed I have been a bit lenient with the time. We'll see how that goes, but is there another?
I have a request to speak from Richard Martin.
Martin?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before Mr. Martin speaks, I did want to reference one thing that comment that was made. The city's residential building code and the building code adopted by the city do prohibit construction on Sunday and do limit construction activities during the summer months from 6 to 6. That was a correct statement.
My concern is voiced by some of the other people. Of course, I would like nothing better than to just have single-story homes. I feel that two-story homes behind my house is going to decrease the value of my home because the lack of privacy. We bought that house that we're in a year and a half ago, and one of the reasons we bought it was the privacy behind it. I realized that it was a possible development. The real estate agent that sold it to us said it hadn't been developed since 2006. That commercial had to be built first up on the corner there of State and Domenegoni. They had to build commercial before they could build our homes. And they had to put a big drainage swale in before any homes could be built. And doesn't look like any of that took place. And then the dirt, the dust, I've got a fifth wheel, I've got cars, I've got fruit trees that are laden with dust. I've got a swimming pool that's filled with dirt. I got to sweep it, dust it, vacuum it every day. You know, it's just making a mess. I've been out there, I see them working with no watering trucks, no hosing things down. Now they were working on the asphalt, but the trucks decided they'd drive right behind my fence, right up to my fence, and no water truck. There they are, you know, 2 feet behind my fence. They got to actually have a dirt road there right now. So I don't think that should be allowed. They don't want to drive on their nice clean asphalt. Well, not my problem. I don't want the dirt. And the other thing is, you know, my enjoyment of my property. Now, don't know how to tell you this, but if I'm outside working and I get too hot, I just drop my shorts and I get in the pool. Is that going to be a problem for two-story homes? Maybe not if they're adults, but if they have children, there'll be some complaints coming in because I'm not changing the way I do things. That's my yard. If I want to walk around naked, I'll walk around naked. My wife wants to go out topless, she's going to go out topless. I just don't care. And the other thing is, if they build 2 stories, I'll build a shed as high as I possibly can. I'll take my fifth wheel, I'll put a cement slab back there. All the rule says it has to be parked on a cement slab. I'll put a cement slab back there and park my fifth wheel sideways across that fence. All right. Happy neighbors make for happy neighbors. Everybody on my street does not want 2 stories. So you can either make a bunch of miserable neighbors, and in turn, the people that buy your homes probably aren't going to be too happy with me in particular. So they can buy me out. Prices are up right now. I'll take them up. Price. But, you know, I didn't buy the place to sell it. And when is the commercial going in on the corner? They're going to have 600 homes back here and not even a gas station or a mini mart? Nothing. Everybody has to run down State Street to go to Stater Brothers. I don't know. But
I failed to ask you to state your address for the record, please.
my name's Rich Martins and I'm at 926 Olivet. So I'm actually, I don't know, I got here late because the address on this thing says 450 Latham. I stopped at the police department. They said, oh, no, they're in the other building across Florida. So I go over there, I walk around the whole building. The notice is posted, box, everything's locked up. Come back to the police department, go to the end. They say, oh, they're around the back, down over. Maybe with this notice, a little map would have been nice. So But anyhow, what's with the 7 homes? I got here late, so are those the 7 they're gonna build now? Is that what they're looking at, or what's the rest, what's happening from Palafox down?
Line of the 2 that we had notice of, that had complaints. So this was the ones that they outlined, the 2 with the red marks around them were
Right.
the ones that recognized that we had official complaints from.
I guess if they're gonna build 2 stories, I just want to be assured that I still am entitled to the peaceful enjoyment of my lot, however I want to enjoy it. So, buyer beware. I guess I was buyer beware, so buyer beware. So,
Okay. All right.
I do not have any other request to speak forms. Are there any callers on the line? that
Ma'am,
would
I'd
to speak?
like to speak. I wasn't aware that I required a request form, but if I may be allowed, my name is Rick.
Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Rick Leonhardt. My address is 848 Olivet Street. I have 2 or 3 concerns. My first concern is I don't know the name of the gentleman that spoke in regards to uniformity and the concern as it pertains to Hemet City in regards to having just 1 stories and all of them look like cookie cutters and look the same. I understand that is a valid concern on behalf of the city of Hemet. However, I'd like to remind the Planning Commission that KB Homes is building on track 33824-2, and they're all single-story homes. So it's interesting to me that uniformity was not of a concern there. It's only a concern on the tracks that are being built directly behind Olivet Street. Number 2, if I may quickly, in regards to due notice, I understand that it needs to be mailed at a certain time. I do find it odd that most of my neighbors, including myself, didn't receive it till about 4 days ago. Now, this, granted, might be an issue with the post office, but I would like to request somehow, maybe I can get the name of a person that I can call, proof that it was actually mailed promptly, because I'm not sure that it was. That's number 2. In regards to the length of the proposed development document, it's 106 pages. Now, I understand that the builders have the right to build, but I would very much encourage the Planning Commission to also consider the right of the homeowners to perhaps hire an independent architecture firm to look at the plans, try to figure out maybe how it's going to affect our homes, perhaps structurally, perhaps in other ways. None of us are engineers, none of us are architects. So if there was a way to formally request an extension on the permits that's going to be issued to the builder, I would like to formally request it. I think that we should be giving at least a little bit more time than 9 or 10 days to go through a 106-page proposed development document. So those are my 3 concerns, and that's about it.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this prior to having our applicant speak?
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be here before you tonight. Pleasure to be building in town. We've got many more projects that we're planning on building in Hemet, and it's good. It's good to be in Hemet and actually to be here in person as well. I've heard the comments from the neighbors, and I'm not sure I can state it any better than the city of it's unfortunate, to say the least, that this master plan, we're all part of the same McSweeney master plan. And when it was set up, there were no provisions set up for when rear yards are back to each other. It was never set up that a single story had to be put in against the backyard of another. There's over 1,600 homes planned for McSweeney. That would essentially make it virtually an entire single story community. So you just can't put single stories along this whole property line, boundary line. It's our houses don't fit the program. Our program's not set up for that. We've been working at this for quite some time on this project with our design. We have been working with the Terrys because somehow we came in contact. I have not spoken with the Terrys, but we have multiple people. Jennifer O'Leary is here with me today with D.R. Horton as well, and she spent some time, but I believe he's talked to multiple people in our company. D.R. Horton is a company that always listens to people. We want to be fair. We want to be reasonable. We want to do everything we can to work with our neighbors. We're all neighbors. Your neighbors. We've got, I do have some comments on some specifics, although I've learned a lot even tonight. We thought we kind of understood that we're dealing with just a couple of the neighbors, but there are additional information we've heard. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just start walking through it a little bit. The Terrys, which, like I said, we've had time and we've been working with Terrys on that. We've got 3 plans. And like I said, our single story just doesn't fit on these lots. The single story is a lot deeper. It takes a lot more room. And so it really doesn't fit on most of the homes along this, up against this, the community that, but lot 1 and 2, as it was said, are single story. You can see the size of those lots are bigger, so they fit the single story. So we plotted those. We've got a plan 2 that's plotted on lot 3, and so that plan actually has no rear windows out of the second story. So where that's plotted along this common line, that can help alleviate the privacy concerns. So that's actually plotted on lot 3, and that's set back 60 feet. So there's a lot of room for privacy in the back of lot 3, as well as there's no windows out the rear, out the second story window. So I think that is something positive that these neighbors might, it might help alleviate their concerns. We also have then on lot 6, that same plan 2, which is or like I said, the plan that has no second story windows facing the rear yard. This is a roof line that starts and it comes down to the roof line of the first floor. So that eliminates really, I think it effectively does the same thing as a single story. I'll point out on lot 4, which there are some concerns on that. There is approximately 40 feet from the property line to the face of the house that we plan on building. So effectively along this,
Was that the 2-story that the concern was looking out in the master bedroom windows?
yeah, yes. So the plotting of our 3 plans that we're plotting, 2 of the plans don't have second story windows facing the rear yard. So I think that's something positive and that for these neighbors. Construction, we don't, we're not the master developer. We didn't even design this community. We're a merchant builder. We're accepting the design conditions that really years and years ago, the city designed with the developer on this project. We're simply implementing the last step. We're also not the developer that's been out there working on Sunday mornings. That's not us. We're D.R. Horton. We're a home builder. And I can tell you that when we come on and build our homes, there'll be an open dialogue. If you leave your names and contact information with the city, we can be sure to get that. We don't do things like the developer perhaps has done what you're talking about. We're not going to be working at those hours. And if there's any dust or anything like that, we're going to make it right. And so we just need to have your contact information. Make sure that if there is any situation. Now, the dust should be a lot less. The road is paved now. So, and our trades are working. We're working on the house. So there's going to be less and less dirt that's going to be kicking. Noisy. I mean, we're home builders. We're building homes. And that's where the unfortunate part comes along, is that timing was just such that you've been in there so long, and I can understand. So I'm available for more questions, comments.
Plan to build, and as property owners, they're going to be dealing with you building on the whole site. I personally am experiencing it, and I have to, in full disclosure, tell you that I'm one of the property owners that was adjacent to your Citrus Point property.
Okay.
I had to abstain. I had a conflict because you were out there. So appreciate you working with the homeowners out there. But one of the things I think that might be helpful is the houses along the street that butts up against the present property owners, if those not dealing with all the upset of everything else. I don't know what your plan is, but if that were to go in, and maybe I'm not thinking like they're thinking, that were to go in first, then you of course they're going to hear it, but it's at least those homes are done and completed, and they've dealt with the biggest disruption first.
Well, this is 58 lots, which for D.R. Horton, we're the largest home builder in the United States. It's a very strong market. This home building operation is going to go quite quickly. Have a phasing plan. There's a lot of things that go into the phasing of the development and the way and the phasing, but so I don't know the specifics off the top of my head on the phasing, but I hear your point. But I think it's going to go quite quickly, relatively quickly, as you found in Citrus Point, the construction. I say it's noisy. We're going to work during business hours, but it's hammering, it's nailing, and yeah, we'll do our best. Like I said, if we can get your contact information, and if there's anything that we can do, we don't mind looking at things that we can do specific. Have with the Terrys on wall issues, on privacy issues, especially on the dust. We welcome having an open dialogue on that. But there's just some things like on this stretch. I mean, it's the design guidelines just never set up these backyards to be protected in a single story element. guidelines, not part of the master plan. We're all, it's one McSweeney ranch. And I think that's the way they looked at it, that they didn't see, hey, these homes are a different community, you know, and you'll see it like the attorney mentioned, is that when you're dealing with edge conditions, completely different tract in a different community, but we're the same. We're all part of McSweeney Ranch under the same design guidelines. The fact that our rear yards butt against these rear yards, I mean, there's not, I mean, that situation occurs all over McSweeney Ranch. Backyards butt against backyards all across this. The unfortunate thing, as was pointed out, is the timing was so far apart. It makes it seem like it's something different than it really is.
Along those lines of what could be built first, second question I have is, if I'm looking at this right, there are only 5 total, if you count the
Like
curve,
along that whole edge, along that whole,
that edge.
right.
And I guess I would ask, because I see those 2 single stories as you're going to the curve. And they're pretty big lots. Let's see, is that correct? Down further, Soledad? Yeah. Because it seems like, to me, might be able to consider, and I know this isn't easy, but could you consider out of those that are not butted up to right there?
The problem is the single story just doesn't fit. Well, the one lot is, yes. It is also, yes, single story. Exactly.
And these are quite large lots, and I know you footprint.
That's correct. '98, almost 1,900 square feet.
And so they won't fit on any of
Correct, or rear yard setbacks, that's correct. Only do, I mean, it's 58 lots. It's not a large grouping for us. And I said, it's just McSweeney Ranch was not set up. It wasn't designed, it wasn't planned, it wasn't expected to have single stories required with rear yards backing up to each other. I mean, you can see it just on our interior streets. All those homeowners have 2 stories backed up each other. You're going to go through 1,000 homes in McSweeney and find that situation. The unfortunate thing we have here is that these homeowners purchased 15 years ago. As the city attorney pointed out, to them, it's felt like this was their view. This was their open space. This was natural. It never was natural. It was never going to be natural. Was gonna
This
be,
is, and again, this is almost the exact same circumstances as Citrus Point, because it was 15 years there also that we had vacant lots behind us, and we knew there was going to be development. We knew that.
right,
However, we did have CCNRs that called for single story. And that was the intent on that one too, because I knew the builder and I knew that was supposed to be single story at the time. I know that that's not the intent nor what had gone on here. But that's why I was asking. So there's not a smaller house plan in this whole 58 houses. You have 3 plans. Okay.
Another possible suggestion is just the privacy. I know with the McSweeney's, I know we have Lennar Homes, we have Richmond Homes, we have KB, we have DR. They just have a cocktail of different manufacturers and different designs, and it's going to be really hard to please everybody when it comes to single story, double story. But I know with like yours, Citrus Point situation is the elevation was a lot higher in the back. So that was a huge disadvantage. And with this is maybe a possible suggestion of like just the privacy of like trees, or in the amendment, have them plant a privacy wall along that side of the residential. So these existing homes have that privacy as the trees grow out so that the neighbors cannot see inside. If we're stuck with not allowing to have more single story homes.
Don't mind.
Yeah.
I didn't believe I got an introduction from the speaker into the record with the name and address.
I'm sorry.
John Myrie.
I assume your name's not DR Horton.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm an employee of DR Horton, Vice President of Land.
And then it does appear, it looks like the PowerPoint that's up that we had of the track doesn't have the color coding. I know people were saying I can't tell which one's single story. The backup to the agenda, I just wanted to put in page 105 of the agenda does have the color coding. When we're looking at that map, lots 1, 2, and 5 appear as single story. Lots 3 and 6 are this plan 2 with no second story rear facing windows. And so at least in the area that we were looking at, the only 2 offending parcel or lot numbers would appear to be 4 and 7, which appear to have a larger footprint than plan 2. So perhaps one of the questions that could be asked of the developer is the availability to switch those plan 3s on 4 and 7 to the plan 2s. They seem to be more square footage. And then the other thing that I was hoping we could get from the applicant, he said that the applicant's not responsible for the current grading activities that have been going on. The city attorney's office would like the contact information for the company that has been doing the grading out there.
Well, they don't work for us. That would be through your city building.
Well, we'll get the grading permit.
Okay.
then.
So is that possible they can build plan 2 on the lot 4?
Well, the only
that
thing I
is-
would say is that talking about a couple houses here, and I appreciate the residents that are here. There's a total of 16 houses along here. I mean, like I say, I can't just plot those 2 houses along the entire stretch. I could see lot 7. I mean, the other thing to consider too is that, I mean, these houses work out there, not necessarily on these houses, but the land development work is done. As mentioned, the streets are paved. These sewer laterals, these water services, these connection points are all in the ground to these specific houses. So we're not talking about a blank slate necessarily here, but
No, I just don't want to go back and replot, try and get these services. And, are treating too much fairly, but yeah, like I say, maybe lot 7 could go to a plan 2.
Told me a while ago that the single stories would not fit on these down on the southern side. However, right across the street are lots that are exactly the same size, 72 by 102, or so they're 2 feet different. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along that street, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single story on lots across the street that are exactly the same size. Almost exactly. They're within 2 feet size. So why would they fit there and not fit across the street?
Well, if we're going to get into like all this very precise plotting, I'd have to get my civil engineer to look at this. But I just think that what you're asking now and what you're implying is going to be required of me is something that is not in any of the specific plan design guidelines. It's not any of the requirements of what of this development. So I think it's fair and reasonable that we've got 2 plans, our plan 1 and plan 2. You can see the plan 2 here, and you can see that long roof line in the lower right-hand corner. That's what you see in the rear yard, or that's what's in the rear yard of that particular 2-story home. So 2 of our 3 plans, and then we plot these pretty much, on an equal basis, fairly close along that entire line. 2 of the 3 plans have this single story element, and I think that's fair. And I'd really ask you to approve what we've requested here based on fairness. Either that or you're going to tell me that I've got to plot a single story element along that entire line against these homes.
Necessarily saying along the entire element. I was looking at the fact that homes directly across the street on Montage Street,
I mean, listen,
a higher number, quite a bit higher number of single story. And I was asking the reason is.
I don't know. Ma'am, I don't know the engineering reason why it is. I don't have that answer.
They're unable to change plan 3, which has the windows looking into, especially like lot 4. Maybe those plan 3s can have privacies on those along that property line. Plan 2 does have no back windows in the like single story, but there are, I don't know how many plan 3s there are along that property line, but they can at least create privacy for those that have windows.
I was going to suggest, Chair, an action the Planning Commission has taken on previous projects that had concerns with windows, recalling specifically our recent adventures in car washes, was a condition of approval, not necessarily for a whole screen of plants along the back wall, but for a line of sight analysis to be conducted and the planting of a large enough tree in that sight line to with an appropriate specimen that had the correct leaf cover that would prevent site to site between windows. And that, I know that one of the suggestions from the attorney in the letter was some sort of landscaping fix. The conditions of approval are generally pretty vague, that say they need to get a landscaping plan that's approved by staff. So, I mean, when I'm looking at 1 through 7, I see it looks like there's only 2 lots that have that rear facing window issue. And the only complaint I've received was specifically lot 4. might be much ado about not much if we can put one tree in there that would disrupt the line of sight between the master bedrooms and the master bedrooms.
Well, actually, and again, the fact that the rest of their neighbors are not here. If we're doing that for that side, this side that I'm talking about has all 2-story. And there are 3, 4. Past lot number 7 on the south side. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 single stories across the street on lots that are almost the same size. They are 102 by 72. Lots on the south side are 72 by 100.
Right. Well, we are fortunate in a way that the housing to the south is already built. We know where their master bedroom windows are. I guess perhaps a question that might be appropriate to the builder is, my anticipation is you don't normally landscape the backyards,
No,
but is that something that you guys would be willing to include as a condition of approval?
try and line up lines of sight, and to try and put the right kind of trees, you know, how high, what happens, you know, if the tree doesn't grow, what happens if the homeowners don't take care of the trees, whatever, you know, it's like trying to solve the situation here. But in design review, normally that happens at tentative map, at specific plan, at design guidelines. All that's been done. I mean, McSweeney Ranch is approved. It's all that's left here is to build the houses that were planned for this community, follow the guidelines. I mean, these houses with these neighbors, they're beautiful houses. They're bigger lots. They've invested a lot of money, but they're in McSweeney Ranch, and in McSweeney Ranch, there is no protection for single stories, for views, for anything. When your backyard is against another backyard, that's the plan. That's the guidelines. That's what this was designed. And if these homes would have come in like they should have and built right behind yours, people would have just said, "Oh, yeah, that's living." I think that we're listen.
This is
I'm sorry, John. Wait.
I'm sorry. This is Chairman Work. Is it? It's kind of hard to. I don't mean to interrupt. Is it a good time to? I had a couple comments, specifically to the applicant, and kind of just in the general discussion on the fact that this has already been approved and it's a large master plan. But I apologize for interrupting if I did. It's kind of hard on the phone. I do apologize.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, so I live in the Diamond Valley community south of here, and I was directly involved in the public hearings 15, 17 years ago when McSweeney Ranch first came in. And one of the most critical things to our community when we were working with McSweeney Farms, and at that time it was SunCal, was that we didn't want to lose the country feel, and we wanted to transition from the large ag horse type of lots into the small, 7,200 square foot type of lots. And they accommodated us by putting the larger 1 acre lots along Newport Road and transitioning to the 3/4 acre lots along Oliviet and Nightshade there. And I think that that is a very important distinction here when you talk about, yeah, it was approved, but the intent was to gradually transition from a country setting to more of an urban city setting. So I personally really, I kind of have a little bit of a distaste to say, well, yeah, it was already approved. Well, the intent of that approval was to make that transition. And yeah, there's going to be 1,000 other homes that you can look at, but those 1,000 other homes are all the smaller 7,200 square foot lots. And unfortunately, this particular project happens to be the last one that is kind of that last transition from the larger lots into the smaller lots. And so I'm kind of the mindset that for the lots that are adjacent to the larger, more rural setting lots, I think these are 3/4 acre or half acre, I'm not certain, but they're certainly larger than the proposed development. I would certainly like to see D.R. Horton do everything that they can to manage that transition from the larger, more country style lots to the smaller lots, and whatever that can be done to accommodate that, whether it be moving plans around, I would certainly think that would be optimum. If possible, understand that you need to make the plans fit where they can. But to say that, well, tough, you bought in a master plan community that's already approved. I think it's important to recognize the distinction of the transition from country to urban, and that was the most definitely the intent of the public review, comment, and feedback 17 years ago. And this just happens to be that same line that I think is important to address. So in any case, my primary comment at this point is I think that D.R. Horton, I would like to see you take a closer look at how you can address the concerns of you have two separate size lots coming up against each other. It's not the same as the lots on the interior. Those are all the same size lots. See if you can do something on these particular lots because it was the intent of the original approved specific plan for Mcswing Farms. So I hope that came through okay. I know the audio is a little tough here, but anyways, I'll go ahead and silence my mic or put myself on mute and be quiet here.
We could hear you well, Chairman Worth, and I too was a part of the city council at the time that Mcswing was approved, and that absolutely was our intent in this whole project. And it was a lot of thinking, and I have to tell you, it was a lot of thinking on the part of the Mcswing family, and included in this. Tom Olson, who was their representative and a nephew, worked real hard, and that was what we were trying to do, was transition into that was a master plan. And we understood that putting in all this infrastructure was going to take a lot of give and take. So I still am looking at this with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single across the street, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, directly across the street, and just wonder, is there not any room to a more single story on that south side, and switching them off or whatever would have to be done to make it pencil for you. I am sensitive to that too. I just don't feel like I can say to these property owners out there, and you know something was going to be built so tough, when there looks like could be a little bit of a compromise that might help.
Would the planning commission be willing to grant rear yard variances then, because like I said, I don't have my engineer here to plot houses, but if you were to approve me tonight with a variance in rear yards, which I'm not sure accomplishes the real purpose of these homes, because that's going to bring that house even closer to the rear yard, but it would be either a single story element or a single story house. If you were to approve us this evening with rear yard variances as required, as necessary to fit our houses with these single story elements, that might be something to build on.
I like the creativity. Chair, my concern would simply be we have not noticed any action on a variance. And so while that may be in fact be a solution, looking at the single family footprint, I understand where the developer's coming from. It looks like while the width, I know you were looking at the width, Madam Chair.
And the
It's
length. I looked at
the length, if they were to put the single family lots on there, they're probably going to be within 20 feet, may even be closer.
I just don't
So
I just don't
it would be something
trust-
that would need further study, I think.
Well, let me ask this, and I again, I know how long it takes you to get to a planning commission hearing. I don't like delays myself. However, two considerations. One is, I know that the US mail has been really bad during COVID, and for them to, so we gave post office the mail for them to only have a few days.
Again, I know how long it takes you to get to the planning commission.
Is that an echo?
Don't like
Okay,
delays
I'm sorry, I
myself.
thought I was.
However,
I'm concerned about the limited amount of time that they truly had with this. I know it might be legal and it might be the legal notice, but I'm concerned about that for them. And if there was any way to mitigate at least some of these, I know we probably won't make everybody happy, but we might be able to do some changes that would accommodate you again, and not make you have to go down to a whole bunch and to make all of them. But it just seems like with 5 across the street and none directly across the street, that
Chair, so is the suggestion then perhaps to continue the hearing on this to a date certain to allow an opportunity to study that issue? That would obviously give, I mean, they have notice of the hearing, but it would give them certainly some additional the time perhaps to give the developer an opportunity to meet with those folks
meet
and
with them and talk through that. I don't know.
I agree that the community should be more involved. I mean, just like with the Citrus Point situation, the community came together and met with the developer themselves. I'm not sure if you guys met with the community at all, but I know with DR Horton and the Citrus Point, they met with the community behind them. They kind of give them reassurance and hear them and hear what they had to say. And I think Vice Chairman Arzo has a good point there, but no, I don't have anything to say.
Chairman Worth, did you hear what I suggested?
Yes, I did, and I completely agree. I would like to see this continued. As D.R. Horton indicated, he's not an engineer or an architect, and perhaps there would be an opportunity to take a look at that and see if maybe a setback variance is a possible solution to accommodate the transition, as originally intended. I mean, I would personally all be for that if it meets all of the requirements. But I think that considering we've only had five days worth of time to address this with the community, it would certainly make sense to continue this item to the next meeting so that there'd be an opportunity to take a closer look at it.
And then the other concern I had was the letter from the other attorney. All right, is there?
In regards to the notice.
The
Chair, if I
planning
can,
director suggested July 20th.
Chair, if I can add a little to that. We understand the notice went out on a timely fashion, but because of the delay at post office or whatever the other components that was involved, that they didn't get the notice until the 5th day. However, the project itself and the staff report, no matter when they got their notice, was not available until Thursday when we completed the project. So that portion does not change, even if they got the notice 10 or 20 days prior to the meeting. So I just wanted to make that clear that we did not hold or delayed the staff report being viewed by public. That was posted on Thursday as we would normally do prior to the meeting.
Thank you.
The second item is, it sounds like we could resolve some of these issues through replotting, and we could work with the developer to do that. And we can definitely bring the project back to the planning commission on the second meeting. I think it should give us a little more time to go through and let the applicant's engineer figure out exactly what particular house plan that can fit on those lots with the infrastructures already in place. So we want to give them plenty of opportunities. So July 20th, 1 month from today, should be able to adequately address those concerns.
Have a request. If you're going to continue it, would it be possible to approve everything tonight with the exception of those 16 lots plotted from lots 1 through 16? Fine review and the plotting of those houses be continued. But truly, we've got, we've got things set in motion to build homes, to sell homes. And I think everybody here in Hemet, strong housing markets don't always wait for us, don't always, and I know we're only talking about a month, but you mentioned, Vice Chair, how challenging it is even just to get to this point. How much months, how much work. We don't turn on a dime to start and stop trenching and construction. And I don't think there's any issue. I haven't heard anything else tonight about anything other than those 16 lots adjacent to this community, and follow the path that you've laid out to readdress plotting of houses on those 16 lots. But if our model complex, our model and the rest of the plotting can be approved and the design of the homes can be approved, we would greatly appreciate that. Of working with these neighbors now. Equitable.
I don't know how we would do that with the action we have in front of us. I can certainly appreciate the desire to get going. The action that's in front of the Planning Commission is approval of the architectural design of the project. So if they were to approve the project that's presented, they would have to be significant revisions to the resolution. So for example, they wouldn't be approving 58, they'd be approving 58 minus, I don't remember how many are along that lower lot. I mean, I think that it's certainly possible for an item to be packaged, that it could come together and you could do that. I guess my recommendation is, if that's the request of the developer, then perhaps it would be continued to the next meeting, 2 weeks to give staff time to put that together. I don't know how you prove it with what you have in front of us.
But would
Well, we were getting ready to change house plots, plotting it. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
your concern is being able to get those models?
Well, I
built?
just think, listen, I'm sure this affects the phasing and how we wanted to build the project, but I mean, we're continuing this a month. It could be another month after that. That's how, you know how these things go. It goes on and on. We're into the rainy season. And
I'm just thinking about the price of plywood. That's,
well,
yeah. I know what's going on with that, and I'm.
oh, exactly. There's a lot of
Don't want to see
variables.
that drag on. Would there be, would there be a way, if you could not come back with this, is there? I mean, for the next planning commission meeting?
I would have to put it up to the applicant if they can get the project ready within 2 weeks with replotting and speaking to their engineer and the infrastructure that's already in place. We can certainly get the project back to commission in 2 weeks. But there will be a deadline when we need the information by.
Planning commission.
Yeah, what's the
meeting?
deadline, HP, that you would need?
The next planning commission is July 6th. We do have 4th of July and we are closed on the 5th of July. So that means that'll put us I would say no later than the 28th of June, which is a Monday.
Basically, the package approved and us to have met with the neighbors and
Correct. So you'll have approximately a week and a half.
So with the city attorney question, we cannot, for example, his proposal with the 42 existing homes that are not a part of 16 that are along the property line, we cannot approve for those and create a separate recommendation for 1 through 16?
If you want to direct staff to limit your approval to all of the architecture, everything except for those ones along the property line, you can limit your approval to that. I'm just saying as a practical matter, that's going to be extremely difficult. It may be better to simply put the afterburners on, get the things plotted. We already have a noticed public hearing that we can continue. That might resolve this faster. But if that is the will of the planning commission and you want to give that direction, we will do the best we can.
I would also add that if you do take out the 16 or 17 lots along the southern boundary line, and if they happen to change their mix, they may not meet their percentage. So they build certain percentage of certain models. So now that you've taken out the 2/3 or 60% of the lots as now set as those models or those elevations, then now you have to work with the remaining 16 or 17 lots to make sure that that complies with those makeup and breakdown. So it may be more work. And as city attorney has identified that if we only approve portion of this, then we have to re-notice, and it may take longer period to bring them back to planning commission.
And then there may be something that you might want to do to move a 2-story where some of these single stories are. That time frame better for you if we go next planning commission meeting on July 6th?
Hard to say. Need to follow the quickest path that we can. That gets us there the quickest, that's what we want. Thought that it could be done, like say with lots, just lots are not part of it. I thought that was pretty right. Percentages could change. Since no doubt what we're talking about is trying to increase the percentages of Plan 1 and 2. So we're gonna also we're gonna have to basically put just put more Plan 3s throughout the whole community. So yeah.
Have to renotice this.
No, so if that's where the commission's going, then the motion would be to keep the public hearing open and continue it to July 6th. That way we don't have to renotice the public hearing to give time for the applicant to work with staff to see if some of these things can be addressed.
Okay. So if you made that motion and we do not have to renotice this, so those of you who live there, make sure you know that and your neighbors.
Like to make a motion to, if I can say what our city attorney Graham just made the motion of. I can repeat word for word.
Just to hold the public hearing open and continue it to July 6th.
Hold the public hearing until July the 6th.
Chairman Worth, are you there?
I am, and I vote aye.
We need a second before we
Was there-
do ayes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you already seconded. I will go ahead and second that.
All right, please vote. So Commissioner Lemke, you can wake up now. Right. Item 7A.
Oh, sorry. I was not TikToking.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. Before you tonight is a development agreement amendment of 20-001. This is a development agreement for Tres Cerritos West. The applicant is JMP Bixby and Hemet. The property owner is JMP Bixby Hemet, which is now, I believe, is the transition of going into DR Horton. The project is located northeast corner of Old Warren Road and Celeste Road. The site area is Tres Cerritos West. The development agreement is a second amendment to the first development agreement, the original development agreement of 0402 for Tres Cerritos West residential project that will extend the DA or development agreement 5 additional years. The vesting tentative map of 31513, which subdivides 121.3 acres into 177 single-family residential lots. The extension on development agreement will expire on February 11, 2025. The city adopted a mitigated negative declaration for Tres Cerritos West at the time the vesting tentative tract map 31513 was done. Under the California's Environmental Quality Act, Section 15061B3, which provides SEQA only applies to projects that have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment. Due to that, this is just a development agreement. There's no impact to the actual environment itself. This project was advertised through Press Enterprise on June 4th. On June 15th, a letter from Martin Boone today, which you have in front of you, was received, and it deals with the amendment 2.3 financing of regional drainage facilities. And I have city engineer here to go over that in detail. So it is respectfully recommended that the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission resolution recommending approval to the City Council. The second amendment, 20-001 to Development Agreement number 04-002, Trust Cerritos West between City of Hemet and JMP Bixby Hemet, now known as DR Horton. Then I'll have Steve Larissa, if you could come up and kind of address that concern of the letter that we received today.
Good evening, Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Commission. Steve Lariso, City Engineer. The letter that we received today, just to talk about that one there, was received from Omni, Martin Boone of Omni and Orbis. I won't read it, but essentially what it talks about is the drainage facilities that were identified within the original and amendment to the development agreement. And that they're referring to in the development agreement, the original goes back to, there's some definitions of regional drainage facilities. And if you've had a chance to read the letter, it does leave out some of the items, but the regional drainage facilities are identified as shall mean those storm drain and other drainage facilities ultimately required to be located, installed, and constructed on the TC East site upon completion of the update to the city's master drainage plan. Now, the reason why that's important, and I mean, I can bore you with the TC East, TC West, TC High Low. There's a lot of information there. So the specific plan that was created for this was done at the same time, I guess, as the DA. But TC West obviously is north of Devonshire on the west side. TC East is also north of Devonshire, but adjacent to Coston, basically in the west side of Coston. The drainage facility that's discussed in this DA is the one that travels from Seattle Basin, southerly along the west side of Coston, westerly along Devonshire, and then out eventually into the Ramona Creek area. Since that time of the DA, Riverside County Flood Control and Water Conservation District has begun the process of updating the MDP, the Master Drainage Plan. And that has also gone along with the fact that Seattle Basin does experience flooding. If anybody's aware of that area, it's off of just south of Menlo, Seattle Street Basin. Because of that issue that's been going on for some time, the Flood Control District has agreed to speed up the process of the MDP as well as the remediation associated with Seattle Basin, the Seattle Street Basin. They actually tie together. Seattle Street Basin will drain into the channel that's mentioned in this regional drainage facilities DA. Seattle Basin will drain southerly along Coston, westerly along Devonshire, and then out into Ramona Creek. So to answer the question of Mr. Martin Boone in this, that he says the line C and D project is not completely funded because the project remains in the design phase. Therefore, it would be unwise to remove the Tres Cerritos funding obligation altogether. So I'm just going to give you the facts on this. And obviously this is for everybody here. Riverside County Flood Control and Water Conservation District, they have gone to their board. They are going to the Riverside County Board in July for final approval. They have established a little over $4.5 million for the construction of phase 1, which is line C from the Seattle Basin along Coston, along Devonshire. And if it would help to, I didn't print out a whole bunch of copies, but I do have one that kind of highlights that information, and then I can leave it with Karina or HP as well. So the fact is that the financing is in place. There's also the CIP, Capital Improvement Program information on the Riverside County Water Conservation website that identifies the district-led project summary in Zone 4, the West Hem MDP interim improvements, $4.3 million. So fact is that the money is set aside already for that project. Yes, when this DA was originally designed, it was intended for the developer to pay a fair share into that. Part of it was to acquire property along Costin and Devonshire. That's been dedicated by the recordation of the map 367. Trust me on that one. The map's in there. Sorry about that. That property's been dedicated to the city for drainage purposes. The other part was the construction and the maintenance of it. Construction is covered by Riverside County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. I'm going to shorten it by saying the district from now on, if you don't. The financing for that has been covered by the district. The ultimate maintenance will be covered by the district. However, they won't maintain any structure that is until it's fully constructed all the way downstream. So there will be some requirement of the city's maintenance of this earthen channel that will, once it's constructed. So also in that second to last paragraph, the district is presently in design and environmental review of line C and D of the area drainage plan that would construct the improvements that are not only necessary to facilitate the Tres Cerritos East and Tres Cerritos West projects, but also to remedy perennial local flooding problems associated with the Seattle Channel Basin. Now, as I told you, the Seattle Basin will drain out, or it does overflow now anyway onto the Tres Cerritos property, Tres Cerritos East property. The construction of the channel by the Riverside County Flood Control District that will occur within the next 3 to 4 years. Now, it's a agency that they're in the design process, so it'll take a little while. As far as the Tres Cerritos West drainage drainage associated with the Tres Cerritos West project, which is the one we're discussing tonight, that project doesn't drain to the line C channel. It drains to the southwest portion of the site of the track map 31513. Drains to the south along Old Warren Road, and then eventually into the Ramona Creek development. That's all the factual information that's there for it. I'm here to answer any other questions, address anything else on the letter. The applicant as well as here in the audience, if there's any questions as well. I guess that's it. Here to help, whatever I can.
Brought up to HP earlier, and maybe just some clarification on the vanquish the golf course deed. Do you, I believe HP was saying to speak to engineer on.
So they're not going to construct any golf courses on this project. And so there's no golf course involved or is planned for along Tres Cerritos West project at all.
Rob Johnson, the original. Chairman Worth, do you have any questions?
I do not. I will say that I'm having an extraordinarily tough time hearing. The audio seems to be getting worse and worse here. I'm hearing only a fraction of what is being said.
The planning commissioners better than the presenters?
I'm sorry?
Are you hearing the planning commissioners better than the presenters? Or is it?
No, there seems to be something wrong with the line. It keeps clicking and then going out completely and then coming back. And back and forth. And so it's when I can hear, I hear everyone speaking okay, but it keeps going in and out. So I'm not sure if I have a bad connection or what, but it mutes out rather frequently.
I think we had a similar problem with the council meeting the other night. Some of us. Sorry about that.
I guess my question is there an issue for the remaining agenda items in terms of having a quorum if I was to leave the meeting at this point?
Have a quorum. We'll have a quorum if you left. We have one more item after this. More items, excuse me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think he's asking you if we can hang out.
Hang up. We'd love to keep you on, but if you have to go, I know it's 11 o'clock back where you are. So.
Well, yeah, it is, but it's really just frankly, I'm having a really hard time following along. I'm really glad that the last agenda item with Mcswing Farms was I did not have the same issue, but it seems like in the last about 15 minutes, 5 minutes, it's just gone, something's happened on the audio line.
I don't know, does it help if he hangs up and calls back in? I'm asking staff. Oh. If you would like to stay on and try to make it clear, perhaps if you hung up and called back in.
All right, I will give that a shot. And then, but just to be clear, we do have a quorum for the remaining items. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great, thanks. I'll go ahead and hang up and try calling back in. And I apologize, but thank you.
I actually do have a question.
Yes.
But because we got this letter from Omni, I'm sorry, the gentleman in the audience, do you represent Omni or are you with DR Horton? So my question is, with the information that the engineer shared versus the letter, do you feel like the updated information is clarity or is there still an issue?
Members of the Planning Commission, John Myrie representing JMP Bixby LLC as well as DR Horton. Your question regarding the letter, I haven't read the letter. I was shown the letter briefly, and I've heard it read. I'm very familiar with all the drainage issues in the projects. I've been part of this project for the last 8 years. So if there's technical questions, I think I can answer those, but is there something specific about the letter you want to ask me about?
Well, I just want to make sure that it seems as though there's updated information so that everyone's on the same page and we can move forward. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, well, I agree with the city engineer that I'm aware that Riverside County Flood Control is stepping into this improvement. So I think that's a good thing. I've had many meetings with the city and other developers in the area to try and help alleviate the Seattle Basin drainage issue. But I agree with the city engineer that it's flood control is stepping in now. And this development agreement that for you is, I think represents current information. Like you said, I'll add that this is a very important step for Tres Cerritos West. It's been a challenge project. The golf course easement actually goes back to when it was approved in the early 90s for a golf course. So DR Horton is ready to come in and construct this this year, calendar year, with processing improvement plans, and it's going to be a welcome sight. I know a lot of people in Hammett to see this. I would urge that you support this. I would also add that I did give a letter with a little bit of a clarification on some language to the city attorney as well, planning director. So I want to make sure that that's a part of the record as well. Kind of just a minor clerical thing that in the agreement. Any specific other specific questions I can.
That was all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions, commissioners?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, we got to open this and let the public speak. Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to speak on this matter? I'm sorry, I should have stated open the public hearing. Is there any other comment from staff regarding our clarifications, et cetera?
Not at this time.
Sure. I did just want to reference the language that the applicant provided to the city. I think it'd be an appropriate paragraph to put in the whereas clauses of the amendment, and it simply references when the application was made for the development agreement and how that affects the term and the expiration. So the action today is not approval of the development agreement, it's recommendation to approve council. And I'd recommend if a motion was made, that motion be with the inclusion of the language provided by the applicant. I'd be happy to if you'd like, Chair. The requested language is that the city acknowledges that an application for second amendment to the development agreement number 04-02 was filed by owner on February 4th, 2020. Since the application was filed, the city and owner have been negotiating the terms of the second amendment, including an extension of the term of the development agreement from February 11th, 2020 to February 11th, 2025. Because the application was timely filed by mutual consent of the city and owner, the development agreement remains valid in full force and effect while the city and owner negotiated the term.
I'll second.
And I just want to make sure, were there comments or anyone on the line that wanted to comment?
There are no other callers on the line and no e-comments were received.
A motion and a second with the
Madam Chair, if we can check to see if Chair Worth is on the line, and if not, then.
Chair Worth?
Well, I am on the line, but I'm going to abstain on this simply because I was not able to hear enough of it due to the audio issues.
vote is 3-1 abstain. Are you able to hear us better now, Chair Worth?
No, it is still very, very challenging. The audio is cutting in and out. So I'm going to bow out of, I'm not going to be able to listen to the rest of the meeting.
Let the record show that Chairman leaving the meeting. Audio problems, technical problems. We are moving to item 7B. Best inconsistency zoning.
Good evening, Chair, members of the commission. Before you tonight is a zone change 21-001. The applicant is the city of Hemet. The property owner is Dilworth, Nelson, and James. The project is located general location West Warren, east of California Aqueduct, south of Stetson Avenue, and north of Marvin Hall Road. The APNs are shown as there, and there are 4 parcels involved. On March 2nd, 2021, the Planning Commission opened Zone Change 21-001 and continued to April 20th, 2021 to receive comments from outside agencies. On April 20th, we continued again to June 15, tonight's hearing, to allow additional comments from outside agency. This is a city initiated proposal to amend the existing zoning designation as shown on city's official zoning map for 4 parcels totaling 65.18 acres to change the existing heavy agriculture A2 zone to general manufacturing to be consistent with the existing industrial general plan designations and to establish consistency with the adopted general plan land use element designation in accordance with the requirements of state law. On January 22nd, 2019, City Council approved and adopted Ordinance 1953, approving zone change 18-001 for 8,899 parcels. This was the original zoning and general plan consistency program that was done by the city. Unfortunately, these 4 parcels were not included or changed at that time to be consistent. So currently there are no projects associated with this change request, and it'll bring the general plan and zoning to a consistency format. And what you see there is a general plan designation, which is in purple, which is industrial. It's in this area. The existing zoning is A2, so you see agriculture A2 in this area. So the change would change it to M2, which would be consistent with the general plan. And again, there are no projects associated with this request. So on January 24, 2012, the City Council approved Resolution 4476, adopting a comprehensive update to the general plan and certifying the associated final EIR with the state clearinghouse number. This will establish a consistency with previously analyzed and certified final EIR, and zone change in itself does not increase the severity of the previously identified significant effects or present any new effects. So we advertised this in the press enterprise on June 10th, 2021. Airport Land Use Commission found the project consistent, and this was one of the agencies that we were waiting for. On May 2018, Sepulveda Band of Luiseno Indians had no comments on the prior 8,899 parcels, which included these parcels. And on April 8, 2021, we routed a DRC to Sepulveda, and there was no response in opposition or in favor. And there are no additional comments that was received by this. So it is recommended that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending, again, this is a recommended action to City Council, approve and adopt a resolution to 4 parcels totaling 65.18 acres to change the existing heavy agriculture A2 zone to general manufacturing M2 to be consistent with the existing industrial general plan designation and establish consistency with the adopted general plan land use element designations in accordance with the requirements of state law. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Applicant present? I don't see them.
City is the applicant.
Pardon me?
City is the
The
applicant.
city is the applicant.
HB is the applicant. We are present.
I meant the owner. Sorry about that. I meant the owners of the property or their representatives. Okay, are there any public comments regarding this? Are there any comments on the line?
There are no callers on the line. No e-comments were received.
Right, commissioners.
I'll recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council approve and adopt a resolution to 4 parcels totaling 65.18 acres to change the existing heavy agriculture A2 zone to general manufacturing M2 to be consistent with the existing industrial 1 general plan designation and establish consistency with the adopted general plan land use element designations in accordance with the requirements of state law.
I second.
Thank you. And I should have closed the public hearing before I asked for the motion, so that pretend like I did. Actually, it's closed. So there's a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay, the motion passes 3-0. Item number 7C, zoning ordinance amendment, residential setback and housing businesses.
So this item was presented to you at the last hearing, and the direction of the council, I'm sorry, direction of the commission was that we separate the setback for the patio cover itself and the housing uses in the CM zone. Have you present the project, and then I'll answer.
Evening, Vice Chair and Commissioners. I'm back again to present the ZOA 21-001 that will revise or add the residential setback and then the housing businesses section. So the applicant is the city of Hemet. Property owners vary and it's citywide. The zonings that will be affected will be our R1 7.2, the R1 6, and the R1 5. But we added, per your recommendation, the R1 10 zone. The housing businesses will be affected in the commercial manufacturing zone. The item was heard last Planning Commission meeting on June 1st, and the staff was directed to make some adjustments to that resolution. So the city has initiated a proposal to amend various sections of our Chapter 90 zoning of our Hemet Municipal Code regarding the residential rear setbacks and modifying type businesses in the commercial zones. The reasoning for adjusting our rear setback is we had several or multiple requests from homeowners who were wanting to add patio covers, but weren't able to meet our current setback of 10 feet. So we did a little research, and the surrounding cities all had a 5-foot setback in the rear for unenclosed patio covers. So we decided to follow. So the section that we would be amending would be section 90-314, number 5 of Article 11, single-family residential zones, by adding a 5-foot setback for unenclosed solid or lattice patio covers for the lots within the 7,200, 6,000, and 5,000 square foot lots, and adding the 10,000 as you recommended. This is how our table would change. And the next section in our commercial manufacturing zone is in trying to assist housing development to meet state and city needs, and encouraging housing type businesses to come to the city of Hemet. We wanted to amend the Hemet Municipal Code section 90-893, E10, and H4. And the request is from a conditional use permit to a permitted use. And this is how the tables would be reflected.
As far as the conditional use permit compared to permitted use, what would that save a builder or an owner?
Asking how much time it would save, or?
Time, there's no.
So under the permitted use section, the developer or the business owner would be able to either find an existing structure and come in with a tenant improvement plans that will go through building safety and doesn't really require an approval of this body. So that would be the change. Correct. It would go from a conditional use permit required to just permitted uses.
The CEQA requirements are met under the California Environmental Quality Act under section 15061B3 of the CEQA guidelines, which provides CEQA only applies to projects that have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment. The ZOA 21-001 is not a physical project or a physical change. The public was notified through the newspaper, and there were no comments received either in favor or in opposition. So it is respectfully recommended that the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission resolution finding that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA and recommended that City Council approve ordinance adopting zoning ordinance amendment number 21-001 based on the findings outlined therein. Presentation, we did separate the resolutions as you saw in the staff report.
Clarification, it says we need to open the public hearing.
No, you already opened it from the prior meeting, so this is just continuance.
Correct.
Comments from the public either here or on the phone?
I don't have any callers on the line and no comments were received.
I recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a Planning Commission resolution finding the project is categorically exempt from CEQA and recommend that the City Council approve ordinance adopting zoning ordinance amendment number 21-001 based on the findings outlined herein.
I did it again. Oh, close that public hearing first and then you made that motion.
And then I
Sorry about
second.
that. Okay. And you seconded it? Okay. Pass 3-0. Now, City Attorney reports.
Madam Vice Chair,
Welcome back.
thank you. Good to be back.
Congratulations to you.
I added a new piece of jewelry since you saw me last.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Had a nice ceremony, a proper COVID appropriate reception, followed by several COVID tests on my way to Hawaii. I'd like to thank the planning director for his advice on how to go through that process in a timely manner. Can't wait to get back out there. I know that everyone's waiting for life to go back to normal. I did have a update. I know that the members of the commission are very tuned in to the goings on of the city council. They did discuss their budget and strategic plan yesterday. One of the things that's been apparent since their original meetings in January is a renewed focus on effective quality of life programs like code enforcement. So I've had the pleasure of meeting with the planning director and the code enforcement manager to go over from a legal perspective things that I think we could do in working with their department to achieve those goals. There's a significant amount of discussion. I know, for example, Councilmember Krupa brought up cost recovery at yesterday's meeting, and we had a little bit back and forth about ways we can look at that. But of primary sort of relevance, I think, to the Planning Commission is one of the additional code enforcement tools that we'll be looking at is monitoring and enforcement of the conditions of approval that this body passes. It's one of the ways that the community can certainly prevent nuisances from occurring. And they're not just words on paper. And so that is one of the things that we're going to be looking at. So I would say don't be too surprised if you see a new type of item on your agenda that maybe you haven't seen in a while. A modification hearing of conditions of approval, a revocation hearing if someone doesn't play ball. And so those will be interesting. I'll make sure that before we have the hearing, we have a ample discussion on what that procedure is in front of the Planning Commission, and what, the due process rights that need to be afforded to the permit holder. But I did want to let you know that is something that is being looked at by city staff and by our office, and would be relevant to this commission in furthering the city council's strategic direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. So I wanted to just kind of give you a reminder that on June 29th, we do have a joint meeting between Planning Commission and City Council regarding the housing element work study. So that will be, I'm not sure if it was going to be in this room or in the library, but I believe it's going to be here. But we'll definitely let you know exact location. And the other item is that we are planning on doing another work study session for objective design standards. That will be scheduled for July 20th. That item is, we're trying to schedule it as a combined work study, but we can accommodate that. So we'll bring it before you first, and then we'll take it to City Council afterwards. But it'll be objective design standards. Again, this is an item that we discussed before, of having a outline schedule of how a multifamily gets developed on a affordable housing, and that once they comply with those standards, then they would go directly to building and safety for that construction, rather than coming to this body. So it is important that you participate in that work study. Make sure that you learn and input as much as you can in order for us to have a very strong standards for them to comply with. So we have a couple items scheduled. Steve Lariso left early, but however, he does have another CIP item to bring before you, and a Stetson corner. This is an item for southeast corner of Stetson and Sanderson. It's a project that involves a drive-through, I believe it's a C-store gas station, and an office, a car wash, and another component to it. So that will come before you.
That is where, I'm sorry?
Southeast corner of Stetson and Sanderson. And that's all I have. We have a lot more projects, but they're just not ripe yet to discuss at this point.
Planning Commission reports.
Commissioner Hill is absent. Commissioner Lemke,
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Beamsterfer,
Nothing to report.
Vice Chair Van Arsdale.
I have one thing to report. I got to go to a conference, and it was live for Saboba. And I really do feel like we're going to start getting back to normal after that. It was a very good conference, but it was also everybody was conscientious, but we went from Monday to kind of the changes at the conference. So, all right. Is there anything else, commissioners, that you want to bring up? That I'll adjourn the meeting to July 6th.
I just want to put it on the record that Chairman Worth has came off the call due to technical difficulties. And have a great 4th.